A busy month of sports video game reviews continues with my breakdown of NHL 17. Let's get it. By now, you know the drill. We're going to talk about positives and negatives for NHL 17. And as usual, we start off with the pros. Let's talk collisions. Collisions is a big part of hockey, obviously. It's a physical, very physical sport. And without the proper collisions or collision detection, you're going to have a problem. Well, you won't have that problem with NHL 17. You feel the collisions in this game. And in my opinion, you feel them even more than you feel them in Madden, which I think is actually kind of sad. But I know that's not all EA. I know that's a lot of the NFL putting in certain things to try to take away some of the violence of the sport. Well, the NHL nor the developers of the NHL franchise have yet to start to implement those types of restrictions. And I'm glad because lining up a skater who has the puck and who is trying to advance up the ice, when you really line them up really well and square away a really solid hit, you get that satisfaction of having taken a guy off his feet, which is what you want when you're playing a video game of this nature, this type of sports video game. You want to see those realistic body physics. You want to feel those hits. You want a huge hit to feel like a huge hit, and that's exactly what you get with NHL 17. We also have even smoother skating, shooting, and the checking animations, which we were talking about a little bit just a second ago. When you completely demolish a guy, it's accurately represented, and it's also reflected by where he is on the ice. If he's close to the boards, the body reactions are very realistic. In terms of the skating animations and the shooting, so there's a few different types of shots that you can take in this year's game, and those animations are excellent, as well as the skating itself just appears to get smoother and smoother every year. When you're controlling a guy like Steven Stamkos, somebody who's supposed to feel fast and supposed to feel skilled, you feel that difference, which is all you can really ask for. You want something, and from an animation standpoint and a gameplay standpoint, that separates the great players from the so-so guys. And I think you're getting that with these animations. The shooting controls, they feel great. The slap shot aiming is now a great addition to the offensive toolbox. I would like to see something a little bit different. We'll talk about this when we get to goalie talk and the negative side. But for the most part, this engine or this process or this approach is really great for slap shots. When you mix in the dekes and the natural stick movements that you can do on your controller to try to fake out defenders and then create a variety of shots and different passes, you have really everything you need to be a legitimate threat when you're attacking, especially, as I mentioned, with one of the top-notch players. Draft Champions made its way to NHL 17, and I thought that the concept was the best new addition to sports video games last year. So for me, every single game that has a virtual card collecting experience should have some sort of draft mode. So it's good to see that NHL 17 adopted that. It works great with the sport of hockey, in case you were wondering how that works. So Draft Champions is a great addition to the overall Hockey Ultimate Team concept. Some new wrinkles in franchise mode. You remember the first time NHL hit this generation of consoles, the Be a GM mode was just flat, just naked. It did not have a lot of features at all. It has come a long way since then. The franchise mode is fully fleshed out. It has the options to relocate teams. You can make general manager decisions on personnel and revenue streams, and you can even edit players and use created teams. We'll talk a little bit more about that, about maybe how we could have taken it a couple other steps, but overall, the Be a GM mode and the options in it are really good. You get more in-depth coaching feedback. And anybody knows that watch my channel, they know I'm not like a humongous, like this hockey savant. I know more than the average person, but I'm not a person that's going to be able to call themselves an expert as it pertains to the sport of hockey. For a person like me, and for people with even less knowledge of the sport, the coaching feedback in this game is probably as specific and useful as I've seen in any sports video game. You get it after each period, and it's very detailed. They don't say general things as they used to say in the past versions of the game. Stop getting as many penalties and stuff like that. Real kind of obvious stuff. You get more in-depth and detailed type of feedback, which I think is great. And it's one of the first times I've ever really seen really useful coaching feedback in a sports video game. Usually I just look at it and I'm like, who doesn't know that? But that's not the case with this. Let's go into the negatives. I personally found there was a slow response on passing at times. It's like almost every stick and button command in the game is quick, but the passing, sometimes you have a defender approaching you, you see him coming, you're trying to let that pass go quickly, and it just feels like there's this half a second delay, which really can be the difference between getting knocked off your feet in a turnover and giving away a pass or setting up a teammate for a one-time, or at least leading to another pass that could lead to a goal. So that's something that I'm still trying to get used to, but I think that part of the game could be a little quicker. There is no personality or cinematic elements at all in Be a Pro. I mean, they took some strides from obviously where it started in NHL 15, because you couldn't even until the updates, you couldn't even skip through when you were on the bench. You have to just literally sit there and watch it until you got back into the game. And you know how many hockey shifts there are. That got really, really hard to play through. So obviously that's not the case in this year's game, but the other single player career modes, they offer storylines and that sort of thing. You don't get any of that in Be a Pro. It's just simply you're on the ice, you're off the ice, you're on the ice, you're off the ice, and it really can get really kind of monotonous. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be enthralled with Be a Pro this year. The functionality of the modes, like I said, saw some improvement last year, but they desperately need some personality to this mode. There's limited options with player and team creation, and this is what I was talking about a little earlier. Face scanning is the major reality for NBA Live and NBA 2K, but it hasn't made its way to NHL, nor has being able to use Game Face, which is an EA product or concept or app. So in the addition to not being able to scan your face for Be a Pro, which would have added some of that personality that I'm talking about, it's actually difficult to change the skin complexions, and the hairstyle options are pretty limited. So I scrolled through a lot of the different skin complexions. It was difficult to get a wide enough variation that I thought would be realistic. And then when you go to hairstyles, it's even more limited than it is in NBA 2K. And I somewhat understand it, because obviously your guy has on a helmet the majority of the time that you see him. But in this era where we're customizing almost every single thing in sports video games, you kind of miss that a little bit. The create a team feature is mostly good, but they're missing the ability to upload custom logos. You see it in NBA 2K. You saw it in the NCAA franchise before that one went out. You even see it in the WWE 2K series. That would have really set off the create a team options in NHL. So it's kind of hard to understand why that didn't make it in, but that would basically take this to the next level. Let's talk about some gameplay issues. Goalies still aren't as smart as they should be. We heard or were told that part of this whole thing was going to be smarter goalies. That was going to be part of the thing that changed with gameplay. But I haven't seen that they're smarter. For an example, there's times when you will consistently beat a goalkeeper. You'll consistently beat a goalie at the same spot in the net over and over and over again. So if everybody's going top right, or if every single shot is beating this goalie top right, there's not a goalie in the NHL I wouldn't suspect that at some point is not going to make that adjustment, because your tendencies are you keep shooting to this direction or this portion of the net. Well, that doesn't appear to happen for me. I've scored the same goal in the same spot of the net over and over and over again. Not to the point where it's easy to score goals, but it's just like every single time this goalie continues to get beat, he gets beat in the same spot. I didn't think that was an example of an improved artificial intelligence. So from an overall awareness standpoint, I don't see a big enough difference between the great goalies and the mediocre ones. So as we do see the difference in skill level in skaters, I don't think we see it as much in the goalies. So that's an area of opportunity for sure. The commentary is really bad, really bad. While many of the sports gaming franchises out there now, they're making some really nice strides in commentary. Madden is one, NBA 2K is another, FIFA is another. NHL has not really developed this at all. They're still struggling quite a bit to come up with realistic commentary. At best, the NHL 17 commentary is mediocre, and that's probably being a little kind. Let's go to the bottom line. With some new depth, the already strong NHL series has remained strong. The product on the ice is, in almost every aspect, the best feature set of the game, and the feature set itself has added some layers. Now that said, NHL 17 is going to be the type of game that you're going to play and say, oh, I wish they would have done this, I wish they would have done that. But for the most part, there's nothing that keeps it from being a fun and deep experience that almost every single hockey fan is going to want to have in their library. I rated an 8.25 out of 10.